Now, this next presenter is a lovely lady. She has 9.5 toes. Fun fact, she got it chopped off in South Africa. East Africa, in Africa. And the technology wasn't around to reattach it, but we have come from a different time and it's available now. I like to... Do you want to show the toe?
Oh,
show the toe! No, we're not going to start a rally. We're not going to start a rally. Donald Trump, I don't want to get assassinated, I don't know. But she's a fearless leader in the TRAILD community. She's a lovely lady, and I'd like to introduce Shraddha. Hello.
Hello, thank you. Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep, awesome. So hi everyone, thank you for the intro. My name is Shraddha and we're really stoked to be here. We're really humbled to be here with the Forge conference today, so thank you for giving us some airtime. I know everyone's probably really tired and a little bit sluggish after lunch, so I'm going to do my best to respect your time as best as I can. Before we kick off, I'd like to introduce my team. We have a fair few people from the TRAILD team here. We have Kirsten McIntosh, Eva Schelling and Amelia Nicole. Kirsten you heard from yesterday on the panel. She's our Director of Partnerships, and then we have two of the best SDRs that money can buy. So Eva and Amelia, hopefully you've had a few chats with those guys. So yeah, please be introduced to our wonderful team. So I'm just going to take you through TRAILD. I'm going to try and keep it relatively high level. What is TRAILD and why should you care? So we're going to, like I mentioned, what is TRAILD? Then just a day in the life of accounts payable challenges, keeping in mind that TRAILD, and I'll tell you how the story came to be in a moment, but we are AP automation software, but coupled with fraud protection. So I'll explain a little bit about more about that in a moment. Then we'll go through the benefits of AP automation, the impact of fraud in this age that we're in, and then I'm not going to do a live product demo, but just a couple of screenshots of the actual product and how it actually works. So at the heart of what sparked the idea of TRAILD is actually a real life story impacting our co-founders, Brad Smorgan and Adam Late. So both Adam and Brad worked in their respective family businesses and both were significantly impacted by fraud. In Brad's specific case, there was an email that was sent to the accounts team by Brad's uncle. Now, Brad's uncle was an executive within the business. That email made its way through the business's stock standard approval process, and ultimately it was paid. Only then did it come to light that actually Brad's uncle never sent that email. His business email had been hacked and he had been impersonated. And this resulted in over $100,000 being transferred to an offshore account. Now, it's not just email impersonation, it's also voice impersonation. They're the possibilities with AI. And as much as we've been talking about AI today and how it can make us do things better and quicker, it also helps bad people do bad things better and quicker as well. And so it's actually just about trying to stay ahead of the curve as best we can. And hopefully what I'm about to show you is going to show you how we do that. So what is TRAILD? The main three areas that we address is Streamline, Automate and Protect. Streamline is all about saving time on manual data entry and your manual coding. Also your three-way matching for those of you who raise purchase orders and who have receipt purchase orders and having any challenges at all with matching those three. So when the invoice arrives, you need to pay the invoice, but of course you need to make sure that it was what you ordered to begin with and then what you received in your warehouse. So doing that, automating that 2 or 3-way match can be the Streamline piece. Automate is also around the approval workflows. So once it's received, if there is a variance on that purchase order, or if you raise non-PO, if you receive non-PO invoices, how does that make its way through to the relevant approver? And how does the system, how is it going to automate who that relevant approver is? And then of course Protect. Protect is actually where we try and differentiate ourselves in the market. Our mission at TRAILD is to eliminate fraud in all B2B transactions. So a common day in the life of an AP team, the latest Business Insight report showed that over 50% of businesses still have a manual process. So just by way of seeing how accurate those stats are, I suppose, who here has a manual AP process within their organisation? 0%. Excellent.
Oh, no, we've got to...
Look, whether it's manually entering it into your system, whether it's manually sending it via email to get approved, even if it's your CFO or the person responsible for releasing those payments, manually checking to make sure that they're mitigating risk within the organisation. Anything, if you do any of that, that is a manual process. And similar to the session we had this morning, it's not about replacing the AP clerk or the approvers or that type of final CFO review. It's a paintbrush within the suite, just to give you additional insight as to what risk might lie within those invoices you're about to pay. So a common day in the life of looks a little something like this. You have a stack of invoices to process, you need to get them into the system. Before you do, you need to know what cost centre to allocate them to. So whether you're using whichever ERP you're using, that'd be a GL code, sub-account, project, task, whatever cost centres you have. Then you need to get it approved. If it's related to a purchase order, you need to get the matching process done. In the overwhelm of all of that process, things can get missed. Whether it's duplicates, errors, fraudulent invoices, it can become increasingly difficult to spot the needle in the haystack. So the accounts payable automation benefits. So again, ATO stats show that it costs a business $26 to process an invoice manually. Now that $26 is brought down to $7 with the introduction of automation. So in terms of the ROI, it's a $19 saving per invoice that you're processing in your organisation. So 19 times the number of invoices you process is the amount of money you're spending on your current manual process. So again, I've just taken a rough estimate of 300 invoices across a standard organisation. It could be way less, it could be way more. But again, the money that you're saving can then be spent on more value-adding tasks within the organisation. So the best way to think about TRAILD is in terms of our credit cards. We have always-on AI already on our consumer credit cards. So if someone was to use your credit card, or if you were to go overseas and try and use your credit card, you would get a notification from the bank to say, hey, you normally live in Melbourne, credit card's been used in Florida, is this you? And so that level of banking security that we have on our credit cards that often have a 5K limit, a 10K limit, depending on what you have, it's already there. But where your AP process lies, where you have millions of dollars being transacted every month, there's no payment security that exists like this. And so TRAILD is applying the same level of banking security that you have on your credit card already to your AP process. Just some stats in terms of the fraud stats, and it's unfortunately not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and whether you have been stung in the past or are finding it increasingly difficult to keep on top of spam and fraudulent looking invoices that may come your way. It's not as obvious to identify as it once used to be, especially with voice impersonation as well. So the stats really are quite eye-watering. There's companies here like Google and Facebook who have all had fraudulent incidents occur. And for companies like that, it's easier to absorb the loss. And for smaller organisations, not so simple. So in Australia alone, the estimated cost of invoice fraud and business email compromise was $896 million, and that's with 1 in 7 businesses actually reporting their incident. And the average amount stolen per attack was about $100,000. So the impact really is significant, and that's how we came into the market to try and solve for this, because it was actually based on a real life example where our founder had his business, like I mentioned. He had this problem and he realised, surely there's a solution out there that I can automate and make things faster, but also secure things on the other end before the payment goes through. And he found silo systems that did a bit of that, but in terms of combining the two things together with a level of depth that we have, he couldn't find a solution that existed, and that's how TRAILD was actually born to begin with, and why we came into market. Number of customer testimonials on our website. They all generally speak to the time savings, mitigating a fraudulent invoice from being paid, and the efficiency of the three-way matching process as well. So I'm not doing a live demo, but I just want to, and I'm not going to spend too much time on the slides as such, but I just want to give you a bit of a visual as to how the solution works. This is the TRAILD in tray. This is where all of your supplier invoices land to begin with. Now, your suppliers don't change their process. They can still continue emailing you at your dedicated inbox that they already do, or individuals within your organisation. But that's all then fed into this TRAILD inbox. At the beginning of your process is a screen that looks like this. At this point, you can't tell anything different. They're all going to sit there in a draft status, like those top 3 that I loaded beforehand. So they're all going to sit there in a draft, and this is the first stage where your AP team pick up the invoices one by one and start understanding what's normal for this supplier and is what you've received in line with what's normal for this supplier. So once you open up the invoice, or the AP clerk opens up the invoice, the screen's divided into a number of different sections. Top section is your header level extraction. This is where your extraction is automated. So rather than keying in invoice number, PO number, date, amount, all that sort of stuff, the OCR tool that we've built, it's proprietary, it's enterprise grade, so if it's handwritten, we can read it also. But that tool extracts all the key information, what have I done here, off the screen, and it allows you to then not have to key that in manually. The middle section is all around the goods section. This is where you're matching your receipt, or your invoice, I should say, to your receipt and your purchase order to automate that 3-way match. So this is where we're tying in from your ERP or your accounting software, where generally your purchase order is raised, or whichever software you're using to raise your PO, and we're bringing that information in to be able to match it against the invoice. And at the bottom right-hand corner, we have our approver. So the system will preempt who the approver should be based on 2 things. Firstly, the rules that you feed us to say, this is the general approval rules that we have in our organisation. And secondly, it'll learn your past behaviour. So if an invoice like this from this supplier with these types of line items was last approved by Eva, then this invoice will suggest that Eva should be the approver if there's no rule that you've already written for it. If we go through those 3 sections in isolation, the header level, we'll have 95% accuracy on the first extraction, but if for whatever reason the system's picked up the wrong information, you'll see a drop-down list that looks like this on every single field, and that's machine learning. So you can come and choose the exact point on the invoice that the system should have read that information from, and you can teach the system what it should have done. So next time it memorises what you taught it. The goods section, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that this purchase order that you can see that the system's picked up a PO at the top in that header level red box, it's taken that PO, looked into your accounting software and said you have 3 lines on the purchase order and 3 receipts that are relevant for this purchase order, and it's brought that information in, and it's telling us in that green little section that there's no variance between these 3 documents. So you can go ahead and process this invoice. If there is a variance, it'll highlight the variance in red, whether it's price or quantity, doesn't matter, and it'll route it through to the appropriate purchase order owner, or whoever the person is that you dictate it should be routed through to. Activity log and approver. So activity log is just an encrypted platform. So rather than communicating about your invoices through email or Teams or however you communicate through the activity log, fully encrypted, fully date stamped, and it'll avoid business email. If you are unfortunately compromised within your emails and they're hacked, there'll be no information or any context for them to understand what you're about to pay and who you're interacting with. And finally, the approver, again, like I mentioned before, predefined rules. Once that part's done, that's what the AP team do. They make sure that the header level's okay, the approver's looking okay, the POs match, and hit submit. That then goes to the hands of your approver. So you can set the system to auto-approve if you don't want it to go through to an approver, or you can set an approval workflow to trigger out. In this case, as an approver, I'm seeing 2 invoices that need my approval, but now we're starting to introduce risk profiles. So the top one is a low risk invoice, and the second one is a red high risk invoice. So as an approver, I should really quickly be able to identify where my attention needs to go. And if you think of this screen as having hundreds, or depending on your volume, often hundreds of invoices for you to approve, it's about understanding which ones you can just go through and hit approve on, and which ones to slow down your process on. A low risk invoice looks like this, something that the approver, either you can set to auto-approve your low-risk invoices, or if you still want to just have a bit of a look and make sure it's all been coded correctly, the screen will look like this within your TRAILD interface, and you can go ahead and hit approve pretty quickly. If it's a high-risk invoice, so assume that Kingfisher, who's the supplier that sent this invoice, assume they're a known and trusted supplier of yours, and the only thing at this point that's being highlighted to you is that they're a high-risk invoice for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it's saying your account details or their account details are different to what you usually pay them. Not only different to what you usually pay them, but different to how everybody throughout the entire economy pays this same supplier. We're looking at their bank details, their logo at a pixel level. We're looking at the IP address. So where has Kingfisher sent this email from? If they're based in Melbourne, why is this email coming from somewhere overseas? We're looking at the exact digital footprint of every single supplier invoice to make sure there is nothing different between the invoice you're about to pay and the authentic, genuine invoice from that supplier. And if anything can be picked up, it could be duplicate, could be excessive charges, could be unusually urgent terms, bank details don't match, no one in the economy is paying this supplier, you're the only one, or one of very small number. Anything and everything will trigger, or anything and everything unusual or abnormal will trigger a risk warning that will allow you to just slow down and double check that you're doing the right thing. In this case, it's saying bank details don't match, but it's also saying that the maximum you've ever paid to this supplier before is $1,345, and this one is more than double that amount. So this one's triggering unusually high payment. Approved invoices are then auto-exported out into your ERP software. These are then automated, so the next time you'll see these invoices are now in your accounting software. Generally, that's where your ABA file is created if you're making batch payments, or if you're making individual payments, that's where they're kicked off as well. So this is just a screen to show you that these are where all your invoices will land, as approved, auto-export out. Invoices will land, I've used Acumatica as the example here. This is actually the Acumatica interface. Normally, they'll land in a section of Acumatica called Bills and Adjustments, which should be familiar if any of you use that. But actually within Acumatica is also the TRAILD login. So right above the transactions section on the top left corner, or kind of on the top left, you can see TRAILD. So TRAILD's actually accessible directly from the Acumatica interface. We were built for Acumatica. We're on their price list and a part of the Fulfilled by Acumatica program as well. Once they're here, one final section of TRAILD. We call this our CFO review or our payment review. This is for the person within your organisation that's responsible for releasing the final payment, generally your CFO. This is the screen that I'm about to show you that Brad Smorgan, who's our founder that got done by fraud, was visualising when he created the software, and this is the screen that would have prevented him from making the payment that he did. This is what it looks like. So this is just still within Acumatica, and this is still where you go ahead and create your payment file from. But once that payment file has been created, we put it back into TRAILD and we put it into the payments section of TRAILD. What this screen should look like, more often than not, is a series of green ticks, similar to what you're seeing on the bottom three on your screen. Because by this time, your AP clerk has had any risk warnings pop up, your approvers have had any risk warnings, the same ones pop up, and if they still haven't taken care of those warnings, yes, they'll present themselves in the final ABA file. But if they have taken care of it, at this stage, if it's this far into the batch, you should have a series of green ticks. If your batch file's been tampered with or something's been missed in the process, your batch file will look more like the top one. So this is what this is telling you, is that you're about to pay a company called ACES Data and Digital. They've been unverified, so we haven't been able to find a supplier that exists with these credentials anywhere throughout the economy. We're also telling you the amount that you're about to pay these guys, the bank details you're about to pay into, but there's 4 risk warnings there, and as you hover over the risk warnings, you'll see what they say. The first one says new, so new supplier, you've never paid them before, and that could be okay by itself. The second one is saying manipulated bank details, so nobody else in the economy is paying this supplier using this bank number. The third one is saying that they're not registered on the Australian Business Register. And the final one is saying that they're charging you GST when they're not registered for GST. This is where you will see duplicate, excessive charges, logo pixel looks off, anything and everything that we can find, we will present to you here as the CFO so that you don't pay a fraudulent invoice. And like I mentioned, with AI, we're trying to use it for good to try and prevent this from happening, but as we're getting quicker, so are the people trying to do these fraudulent invoices to begin with. And so our always-on algorithms are always picking up the latest ways that fraud is detected and applying it to your profile or your final batch file. So if your batch looks like this, you can cancel the batch and do it again. Might be a bit of a pain, but far less of a pain than releasing this payment. So, having said that, normally, of course, we do live one-on-one demos, so I can have a bit of a click around, but I am going to just play a short video. Like I mentioned, there's a few of my team members here today, Kirsten, Eva, Amelia. Hopefully you've spoken to them already. Not everybody needs TRAILD. We're really not here to pitch a product to a company that doesn't need it, because at the heart of using TRAILD should be a real-life company that has gaps in their AP process or some sort of manual exposure in their process. So we'd love to have a chat to you. If you are managing your AP process manually and you're having no problems and you're feeling pretty good about the way that you're doing it, there is no need. TRAILD is very absolutely an add-on to your existing solution. You don't need it, but in the event that you can see some gaps starting to form or you're finding it difficult, please have a chat to us. We'd love to show you a bit of a live demo customised to your organisation, so that together we can achieve our mission to eliminate fraud in all B2B payments. So I'm going to press play, and I'd love to show you a quick tutorial or demo.
Hi and welcome to TRAILD. Today I'll show you how TRAILD makes accounts payable easy and protects MYOB businesses. TRAILD's AP automation includes data extraction and matches invoices to purchase orders and receipts. Simple workflows help you share invoices around your company securely, with decision support to help you focus on invoices that require your attention. Approved invoices and attached files are uploaded into MYOB for future reference, including the original PDF invoice. TRAILD's point of payment review ensures that your batch files not only included items that you've approved, but also warns you of any unusual payments. Let me show you how it works. Invoices can be easily emailed into TRAILD or uploaded from your computer, where they sit in TRAILD's Invoice Control Panel. TRAILD's machine learning OCR technology extracts the key information from the invoice immediately. Purchase order details and codes are imported directly from MYOB and can be added with a single click. And changes to your general ledger data and codes are reflected in TRAILD in real time. A notification icon will appear when items or receipts are linked to an invoice and have been received in MYOB. You can review the coding, including classifications such as sub-accounts and projects, attach supporting documents, and submit the invoice for review and approval. Lines from one or more purchase orders can be manually selected or read directly from the invoice. The system notifies you of risks such as duplicates or variances between supplier invoices and purchase orders before allocating the invoice manually, or by using predetermined approval rules. You can also add any comments for the reviewer to see. When the invoice is awaiting approval, the reviewer will be notified via email and in their Waiting on Me tray. When reviewing the invoices on desktop or mobile, approvers will see the risk score along with the detailed breakdown and relevant information. Users can simply approve, reject, or skip an invoice. Or, if your business allows it, reassign the invoice to other users. TRAILD detects unusual details that require your attention as an approver. Here, the supplier's payment details have changed and differ from your master data. Once the invoices are approved, authorized users can easily see them in the control panel and export them with attachments into the Payables module in MYOB. TRAILD allows you to make a final payment risk check once you're ready to make a payment. The system assesses payment risks contained in the batch file and verifies supplier payment details. Executives gain high-level visibility, plus the ability to drill down on a supplier payment to see associated invoices. Executives can see if the invoices have been reconciled, see who approved an invoice, and see the TRAILD invoice risk score. The invoice is also linked within TRAILD if a deeper level of investigation is required. Executives can leave a comment next to a payment and tag a colleague for any required actions. Ready to approve the payment file? Select Approve to create an auditable record of the review and process payment. To protect and manage your accounts payable efficiently and securely, come visit us at trailedsoftware.com.
Not bad presentation for someone with 9.5 toes. Very good. 20 years experience of MYOB. I have a couple questions. First one is, what advice can you give to organisations that are a little bit hesitant on moving to AP automation?
I think it's actually a bit of a sensitive one sometimes to speak about, depending on who you're speaking to. It could be an AP clerk or an approver, because like anything AI, it can kind of appear as though you're losing control and visibility on one of the most important processes within your organisation, or worse yet, losing a role. If that's your role, to process invoices. And so I think this morning's presentation was really on point. It's not to replace. You still need a human to intervene on any of those risk warnings. You still need somebody to interpret the information that we're feeding you. And so it really is, I love the analogy about being one of the paintbrushes, because it really is. It's designed to free you up, not that so you don't have a job, but free you up so you have more time to spend on more value-adding exercises. So I think it's just a matter of, understanding the information that we give to you is the biggest part, which automation can't do in this case.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I've scoured the internet and I've found so many AP automation tools out there. I want to name a couple, but what's your competitive edge? Why are you so better than them, or what's your difference?
I mean, I wouldn't say ever that we're better than anybody. I think, depending on the customer need, there is a solution in market in the AP space that can absolutely assist. Like you said, there's loads of us, and I actually spoke to the gentleman from Zoodello yesterday, and from the beginning, it's like we know we're in the same space, but there's absolutely a time and a place where we should recommend Zoodello, and there's a time and a place where Zoodello should recommend us, and there's heaps of them. There's Osera, Lightyear, Dex. There's so many of them. Why we came into market was to combine the issues of automation and payment security. At that time, there was nobody that did that. Even at this time, there are companies that do some level of fraud protection, but the depth that we know we know we're a leader in the market when it comes to payment security and fraud. So I'm never going to stand up here and say we're the best in the market at everything to do with AP, but for a cohort of customers that have a dedicated pain around managing risk, manual processing, all that sort of processes, I believe we're a leader in the market in that space.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Now, you've been with us since the pre-conference event, and we did some forging together, which was great, and yesterday. What's your aha moment from the Forge Summit?
I've talked about it twice already, but I'm going to talk about it again, because when we saw that this morning about the human operating system, and you upgrade everything that you have, but when have you upgraded yourself? I thought it was pretty, I don't know, maybe it was the way that he was presenting it, maybe it was just that I was sitting with no phone and just watching, but I thought it was pretty cool, because, and even like I have kids, and it was, I don't know, it was one of those realisations that actually don't think we do spend enough time updating that. And also when he said that it's one of your paintbrushes amongst many, not the picture, I thought that's also a really cool way of putting it, because it's one of the paintbrushes. Yeah,
Finbar did well. I want to take it to the audience. Anyone has any questions around AP automation?
Thank you. Great presentation, it was really good. Just a question in regards to, it mentioned Trello works with MYOB. But is that the only operating or ERP system it works with, or there's other ERP systems?
Great question. Yeah, this particular deck was put together for MYOB in terms of the ERP, but there's MYOB Acumatica, all the suite of MYOB. There's Epicor, Syspro, IFS, NetSuite, SAP B1 and Xero at the moment. That's current, live and ready to go, and then we have 3 or 4 more coming in the first half of next year.
Hi there. When you onboard a customer, do you go back into history, invoice history, and look for duplicates and fraud?
We don't. The only thing, it's only upon whatever hits the trailed in tray. So if we are going to go and go back and put in any of the older invoices, then yes, they can go through that same scanning process. But if they've been paid already, then at that point it becomes a little bit of a moot point, but we can bring in historical data. The biggest reason we do that is to then teach the system what normal looks like for your coding, for your suppliers.
Sure, but it is possible to do that?
It is possible. It just won't quite make it to, at some point you'll have to interject that so it doesn't go into your batch file, yeah.
Another one, okay, more, nice.
Sorry, just one quick one. Do you use the data that you gather across the economy, excuse me, to be able to match up invoices to make sure invoices from the same suppliers, we haven't paid them before, that can be matched against maybe someone else in the room's paid an invoice to that supplier. Is that level of detail using the broad pool of data you'd have available to do that analysis?
Absolutely. There's actually 3 data sources. The first one is your own ERP. That's where you set up your supplier data to begin with usually. So that's the first point. But in the event, I was talking to a gentleman outside saying that if my boss or my founder sent me an email saying, hey, I've double-checked these guys' supplier details are correct, go ahead and update your accounting program. And if it came from my boss's email address, I probably would update it, or at least somebody in the organisation, if they receive such an email, depending on how many tiers above, like they'd probably update it. So in that case, that first level match would be a match because it actually does actually match your ERP, even though it's a fraudulent email that came through to begin with. So the second one is then the platform, the power of the platform. Everybody that uses TRAILD, aggregated data, it's completely, we have all these SOC compliances and privacies in place that we can send to you, but it is an aggregated data field of supplier data that we can offset against. And then the third one is government partnerships to have that third level of check. So all 3, every invoice goes through all 3 checks.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a number of clients that would benefit from a product like this. Do you have a channel partner program, and will you come out with me and help me sell it?
Absolutely. We would love to. Kirsten's our Director of Partnerships. Anybody in our organisation would be delighted to, we absolutely have a partnership program, and we'd be delighted to help you co-sell this to anybody that actually has need for it, for sure.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Let's put our hands together to the guru of AP automation, Sharda.
Thank you so much.